If you're a heavy or alternative music fan from Victoria, or you've ever spent any considerable time in Melbourne, then it would be unusual if you're unfamiliar with Collingwood venue, the Tote. This iconic building was erected way back in 1870, and from 1873 through till 1981, it ran under the name the Ivanhoe Hotel, before it became the Tote. It was at this time that the hotel began hosting local bands and gained a reputation as Melbourne's home of rock, becoming a sanctuary for punk, metal and hardcore bands and fans. Over the years, this venue has been a launch pad for many of this country's top bands, as well as hosting countless international acts. Recently, the building has gone up for sale, and when historical buildings like this go on the market, developers hone in. Enter rock and roll couple Shane and Leanne, who currently run the Last Chance Rock and Roll Bar. They are on a mission to ensure the Tote remains in the hands of the live music community and are desperately trying to avoid watching it become yet another apartment complex. I spoke with Shane about what the Tote means to the Melbourne music scene and what he's hoping to achieve in a very small window of time, and more importantly, how you can help. This is the Heavy Music Podcast. I'm Ez, and this is my conversation with Shane about his quest to save the Tote. Shane, welcome to the Heavy Podcast. I'm so happy to have you with me today because you have something really important going on. But before we really delve into your monumental campaign to purchase the Tote, can you please give our listeners a little bit of background on yourself and your involvement in the Melbourne live music scene?
Okay, my name's Shane Hilton. Along with my dear partner in love, life and business, Leanne, we run the Last Chance in Melbourne. It's probably known for being a bit of a late night den of debauchery, but we do a lot of bands, we do a lot of music. I first got involved in, I'm from a small country town up in New South Wales, near Wagga, and very keen on music from the earliest age. And around probably 10 or 11 years old, it kind of became an obsession. My mother lived in Melbourne, so I started to visit Melbourne kind of regularly, and that's where I discovered venues, and I would come down once or twice a year and spend my whole time basically trying to sneak into any venue that would let me.
Love
I
it.
kind of knew when I left school, I finished school and I went to I rocked up in Melbourne with literally a guitar and a suitcase, and I lobbed on my mother's front door. She did not know I was coming, and I said, "I've moved to Melbourne. Let me have your lounge." And I ended up she gave me the lounge for a month, and I ended up getting a job at the Corner Hotel. And from then, within about 3 or 4 days of working there, I thought, this is what I want to do with my life. I just loved it. So it was from then on, from the age of 18 until now, which is a long time, almost a couple of decades, I've been inside live music venues.
Yeah, awesome. And how long have you and Leanne had Last Chance?
We've had it for 7 years. I think we're on our eighth year now. So we've had that for 7 years. So it's been quite the journey.
Again, that's another venue that's well known amongst the heavy community in Melbourne. So
It is, yeah.
yeah, you've well and truly cemented yourself within the scene, that's for sure.
We have, yeah.
So the Tote, it's one of Melbourne's iconic venues for original live music too, and we're on the cusp of losing it. We'll jump into talking about the campaign in a minute, but I want to talk about the venue itself and what it means to you and the musicians and the punters of the scene, and more importantly, probably what the potential loss of this venue might mean for us.
Well, to be completely honest, the Tote is if you look at it, it's the most important live music venue we've ever had. It's been in operation for 42 years. Some of them have been rough years, some of them have been great years, but in effect, it's always been there, and it's always promoted local live music and independent music. It's what it does, and it's done it better than any other venue. It is the heartbeat of Melbourne. Like I probably can't stress enough, but the history that it's got through there is just amazing. Some of the best well-known gigs ever have happened there. It's hard to say. It's potentially, I don't know. It's kind of our CBGBs in a way.
Definitely.
If you have a look at the things that it's done and the bands that have come out of there, you can just reel them off. Like it's just amazing the bands that have grown there. And in effect, it's one of those funny places where your entire band history can happen within the one venue. It's you can start playing in the front bar, you can move to upstairs, then you can do a support out in the main room, and eventually you can headline the main room, which is, you know, that can be the pinnacle for that is the pinnacle for most bands. You know, moving beyond the Tote is very hard, you know, as a small local band. And it's always done it. So the loss of that would be devastating because, you know, once a live music venue goes, they don't come back.
Yeah.
It's not feasible with gentrification and what gentrification does. It rips out the souls of venues and they put up fucking shitty apartments. And shitty apartments they're not creative. Nothing special happens in them. You know, you sleep there. You know, whereas the Tote, everything happens at the Tote.
And I guess for the likes of yourself, and I know personally my friends and myself, so many memories in those walls.
Jesus, yeah, within those walls, and that's a big thing that we like to tell. We're telling people, and you know, we really want the government to hear as well. It's not the walls that need protecting; it's what happens within those walls.
Yes.
And you know, I've got so many memories of the Tote myself, but I've got probably the amount of stuff that's happened there to myself that I've just forgotten about and don't remember until I'm speaking with friends. It's massive. You know, you know, you could spend a week at the Tote and have the best time because you're always got something happening. So, you know, ripping that out from the community and just destroying it is just, to me, it's counterintuitive to keeping Melbourne what it is.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think as well, like when you're talking about up and coming bands too, there's very few stepping stones left in the scene in terms of you've either got sort of really shitty little venues or really big unobtainable venues for some bands that are in sort of in those in between stages. And I think that's what's so beautiful about the Tote is that it's one of those venues that it can host really well-known bands,
Yeah.
but it can also just as much be a platform for an up and coming band. And I think there's a lot of people that don't really, and I know you get it, and I know the people that are supporting you get it, but there's not a lot of venues left that really can be that leg up for the up and comers. And once those go, it's going to be so much harder. It's already hard.
Yeah, 100%. You've summed it up. You've summed it up better than I ever can. It's a place where you know, it's transitional. So, you know, these smaller venues, like a place like the Last Chance, we've got a band room capacity of 110. Now, the next stepping stone from us is somewhere like the Tote, you know, where it's, you know, 280, and, you know, that's where you go next. And if you remove the Tote, that will take on these bands, and a lot of venues won't take on a lot of bands simply because they don't fit with the other ways venues make money. Places like us and the Old Bar and a Whole Lot of Love, we do take those bands and we do promote them, and then you do get successes. If you have a look at like, you can rattle through even bands getting around at the moment, like you know, King Parrot started at the Tote, like essentially, you know, and they've gone on to do amazing things. If you look at a band like Amyl and the Sniffers, well, Amyl and the Sniffers were born basically in the front bar of the Tote.
Yes.
You know, that's where they came to their own, you know, and now they're probably one of the biggest bands in the world. It's ridiculous that we would take that and have nothing else for these bands to play in. We need it. We need that room. We need the Tote to be there. So young bands, and even if they're not going to go on and be rich and famous, it gives them a place to play, a place to be who they are.
Yeah, I hear you. So you and Leanne have embarked on this heroic quest to buy the Tote, but this hasn't really come about on a whim, right? Like you guys have had this venue in your sights for some time.
I've had this venue in my sights for 20 years.
Yeah. Okay.
I've wanted to run the Tote forever, and simply because of I just love going to the Tote. I love going there in the afternoon. I remember watching Bat Piss's front bar shows were some of the best afternoons of my life, you know, watching the Cosmic Psychos, the Powder Monkeys, all these things happened at the Tote, which I love. And we knew that at some stage that it would come up for sale. we weren't expecting the whole building to come up for sale,
Yeah.
but we were more than happy to buy the business and to run it and make the tote what it should always be. But then when we were kind of blindsided by the fact that the entire freehold, that the entire building was up for sale, and the price tag that was on it it's not doable. We own a very small live music venue. We worked for 5 years without taking a wage just to keep the last chance
Mm.
going, so we could make it what it is now. And we're not rich people. We earn a living.
Let's face it, not many people in music are rich people. No,
No,
at least not financially.
no, they're not. Yeah, not financially. That's right. But that what we are rich in the fact that we're passionate. That's 100% right, and especially at this level of the music industry, which we are part of the industry, but we're not in the money side of it. Once you step up and you're in with venue wise large venues, then yeah, sure. You do make money, but at this level, you do it because you're passionate. But with a $6 million price tag, well, it's closer to seven.
Mm.
It's unattainable for someone who is passionate about music to go in, buy it, preserve what it is, and keep it going forever, like what it should be. Keep it going, running as the Tote. So we were very blindsided, but we sat down and we were actually took our first holiday in 15 years. Well, this is a bit of a backstory, but we were first. My cousin runs a live music festival down in Port Fairy, where my mother and his father are from, and it's a very very small town, and the festival's called Down South. Coffin were playing down there, and I can't remember. My brain's gone from that weekend, and Bad Dreams and Civic, and all these great bands. And we were down for that because it's my cousin. Go down, support him, help him out, set the stage up and stuff. But we had a break, and we were out. We took my nephews out to go look at some weird thing along the coast there, and we had no phone reception. We were driving back into town, and all of a sudden, our phones just went bananas. And the first message we saw was, "You fucking cunts better buy the Tote." We were like, "What? What the fuck's going on?" So we literally pulled straight into town and rang the real estate agent and said, "What's the deal?" And he said, "Oh, it's for sale." We want 6 to 6.6 million. And we went, "Oh shit, what? The whole thing's for sale." So we kind of, as soon as we hung up, we went, "Well, we can't afford it."
Mm.
So dream gone. But I've got this thing about me. I'm very stubborn, and I knew that as soon as I heard the price, I knew that no one else in live music was going to buy it. So I was brought up to believe if you don't do something, no one will. So I immediately rang our accountant and said, "Hey, mate, I know you love hearing from me, but how much feasibly could I get if I was to go beg, borrow, steal, go to a bank? How much money could I get?" And he ended up saying, "Look, you could probably get half the asking price if you try hard enough, but that still left us 50% short." So we said, "Well, what can we do?" And we thought, well, if we do a possible campaign or something similar, maybe the community would get on board. And if the community did get on board, we still are very much more than happy, willing to buy the building, buy the business, and to put that business into a trust so that it stays a live music venue forever. So no one can ever sell it ever again. And when we're dead and gone, it is still run as a live music venue for local musicians to play at. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most standout aspects to this entire campaign, and why it's so important, and why people should be paying attention, because you're not talking about keeping a venue going for, say, the next 10 years. You're talking about for
No,
forever.
forever.
I think that's just amazing. What kind of support are you
Mm.
getting from the industry?
From the industry's been, well, first off, the most support we've got is from the local industry. So not the industry, from the local scene, because it happened so quickly. It has been the bands and the people from within the Last Chance and that have driven this campaign, and they've done everything. We've done very little other than put a name to it. It's been the community. When it comes to the industry side of it, we've had some pretty amazing support. We've had a lot of reach outs from a lot of different artists and musicians that have even just spread the word. Musicians don't, even successful musicians don't make that much money, but they've all chipped in, and it's been heartening to know that if the community wants us to be, what is essentially the custodians of a very important piece of Melbourne music. So it's been amazing. Like, we've raised over 500K at the moment. We've got a week to raise 2.5 million more, but we are actually, it sounds insane. We think it can be done.
I believe in you as well. I think that it can as well. And that's partly why I reached out to you to say, hey, let's have a chat, because I think if we get enough people on board, miracles happen. So the pledges don't come without reward either. I mean, though one might argue that the only reward needed is for the tote to end up in your hands. But people don't like giving, something for nothing these days.
That's right.
And you guys are onto that. So there are several tiers of donation that you've set up, right? Tell me about those.
Okay, you can get everything from just a t-shirt, which is like all our shirts designed by local musicians, and some of them are they're all absolutely fantastic. The designs are great. I don't know how many people want a shirt with me dressed as a sexy nurse putting a rubber glove on, but it's a great t-shirt.
But it's an option.
It's an option. It is an option. Right through to the big one that we're really pushing is the life membership. It's $1,000, which is a lot of money, but for $1,000, what you get is you get all 4 t-shirts. You get a compilation vinyl that we're putting together, that'll feature older artists from the Tote and the future musicians of the Tote, the bands of the future. We're doing, like in cricket clubs and golf clubs, how they have life members boards, the wooden boards with the gold lettering.
Yes.
You get your name on one of them, and that'll be in the front bar, and then in the band room you'll get on the supporter wall, and on top of that you get 10% off for life at both the Tote and the Last Chance. And here's probably the most stupid part of it.
Waiting for this.
Yeah. So if you become a life member, I'm getting your name tattooed on me, it's been a journey, because I've only got I think I've got at the moment 60 odd names, random people's names tattooed on me.
That's so good.
It's an ongoing process. Yeah. So you get your name tattooed on me.
I have been following the social media posts and stuff, and I must say I was incredibly surprised to see that you'd already started getting them. I assumed that you'd start getting tattooed once you reach the goal, but I mean, I guess that just shows how invested you are in this crusade, right?
That is, yeah, and honestly, that is why we did it. I had a friend who they wrote a song, and part of the lyrics is that they wore things on their body. And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll do it for the life members. And when I approached the Costy and Sam, who are from the band Needle Injection and Rathead and Garlic Nun, they're tattooist, and I said, hey, what do you reckon of this for an idea? And they were just like, you're a fucking idiot. When do you want it done? And they kind of push me more into getting it done straight away, because I'm like, right, when are you doing this? I'll be there Monday. They took the day off work and came down and did it. So yeah, look, we're 100% committed, and even if we're unsuccessful, which I'm really hoping that we're not, the fact that these people have put their faith in us and have invested their money in us, I think if it fails, it's the least I can do for their belief in us anyway.
And you've got an everlasting memory of an incredible. Well, I was going to say an incredible crusade that you've been on. You know?
Story.
And I think it is a great way of demonstrating to the wider public just how seriously dedicated you are to making it happen.
Yeah, look, we're 100% dedicated. We if we had children, they'd be for sale at the moment.
Would you like me to gather some children and we can start selling them on the black market?
Sell them off, that'd be great. Yeah, well, I've got a couple of punters here at the Last Chance that we could probably sell off pretty good. But that'd be worth a bit. But no, I'm dedicated to it. Music gave me a life, and it's going to give a lot more people a life. It creates so much positivity in the world.
Yes.
A lot of people probably look at people like myself or other people from the music community and think, oh, Jesus, scary people. But, in effect, we're just ordinary people who are very passionate about things. And the connotations of being a dirty punk rocker or a metalhead or whatever it is, whatever you want to people call us, we're just passionate people, and I'm passionate, and that passion is the driving force behind what we're doing.
And the sense of community is something that, unless you're part of that scene, you don't necessarily understand it. And I think it's very clear as well that you're encouraging everyone to be involved in such a way that if this is a win for you, it's a win for us all.
Yeah, it really is, and it's even a win on a bigger scale, because behind all of this, at the beginning, we thought if we fail, at least we can throw some rocks, because the government support of live music venues is pretty much non-existent. When they talk about funding for the arts, I'm like 95% of that money goes to what I would refer to as rich people arts. It goes to things like the ballet and stuff. Whereas the biggest part of the arts is live music. We make more money than anyone. We employ more people. The revenue raised off us just existing is massive. And, the payoffs for me as an owner are very little. I earn less money than most people. And, that investment within venues is non-existent. It's paltry, compared to what we do. Whereas you look at something like I'm not trying to shit on anyone, but if you look at something like football, well, they spend literally hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars just in Victoria alone from the Victorian government on maintaining sporting fields. Whereas they spend fucking nothing on maintaining live music venues. So if we can create a model for the future, whereas the government steps in and protects these live music spaces that are essential not only to the culture that we're a part of and independent music, but the revenue that it raises and everything. If they can't invest and protect them for the future, this is a way in which they can do it. They can go and buy these places, protect them. Don't protect the walls, protect what happens within those walls. And the live music will continue doing the great things that it does. We'll continue having bands go overseas and doing these amazing things. It just makes sense. So, if the government can really pay attention to what we're doing and how we're doing it, it is better for the industry. It's better for the future. It's better for the band on the Wednesday night that just plays for kicks.
And the city in general.
Oh, yeah.
The city of Melbourne too. Like, people come to Melbourne for this. It's well known for being, the mecca of music scene in Australia. So,
and this is the other part of it, we can't claim to be the live music capital of the world, which we do. We've got more venues apparently per capita than anywhere else in the world. But in effect, if we're going to let our most important venue die and, just go away because some shitty investor has lots of money and they want to build apartments, then we can't claim to be the live music capital of the world. And speaking to friends that have just come from tours overseas, and they're always shocked when they go over there, because they go, there's nowhere else in the world like Melbourne. There's literally nowhere else. But if we start letting that, like the Tote goes, and then somewhere like the Old Bar goes, eventually we're going to be left with nothing.
Yes,
we need these venues and we need to protect them. So if that's not a good enough reason for everyone to get on board and to try and save the Tote, then what is?
Yeah. I think this is sidetracking a little bit, but it's interesting how you compared to, say, the football, or in my opinion, sort of any sport. But the pandemic really showed us where priorities lie in that regard, right? Because there was no backing for venues or the music industry, but oh my God, were people panicked about whether the footy would be happening or not?
Footy was on. That's right. And it's ridiculous.
Can we just have, I don't know, even 20% of the money that the AFL makes would make a huge difference in the live music scene.
Well, just the money that they get given.
Yes.
That's the other thing. Live music creates more jobs, creates more money. We're way bigger than the AFL, but we don't get anything in return. There is no investment within our industry. And that to me is it's a slap in the face of what on the coalface we do. So that it's about time where governments,
Yes.
we've approached several politicians to be a part of what we're doing, and basically we've been told, oh, now's not a good time for us, which is, there we don't have time. We've got like a week until we have to, the tote either goes to a developer or we manage to save it. There is no good time. It's what we do.
The time is now.
The time is now. Literally, that Gough Whitlam reference. If there was, we need Gough Whitlam at the moment, but it's so important that we let government and politicians know that we're not a photo opportunity. You can't just rock up and use us when it's convenient for you because you have an election coming up and you're trying to generate whatever. You've got to put your money where your mouth is and get out and support us and be there for when we need you. Like I do understand that they're running a country. I get that, but we're a big part of what Australia is. No one overseas know who fucking the Richmond Tigers or the Brisbane Broncos are or anything like that. But I'll tell you what, they know who King Gizzard are. They know that. The music is, no matter what genre it is, it's what we're known for. Everyone knows AC/DC. Well, if we want to ever have another AC/DC, got to start putting the money in, at the grassroots.
Yes, 100%. I was about to make that exact reference. Yes. Yeah. They started in places like the Tote.
That's right. They really did. They even started in smaller places than the Tote,
Yes.
And we've got a couple of bands out there now. Like this is probably a sidetrack story as well. But the big inspiration for me to get off my ass and actually try and do this with the Tote was fucking Ed Sheeran of all people. It's a weird story. I met his Irish promoter, and great guy. He's just a old punk rocker who just so happens to he's got a really, really fancy job. He's, worth lots of money independently. And as a side hustle, he promotes gigs. And one of the promoters is Ed Sheeran. They're great mates and whatever. And I'd never heard an Ed Sheeran song. But he was out in Australia. He said, listen, Shane, I'll give you a ticket to bloody Ed Sheeran. Just go and have a look at the show and know that if you're going to be in this industry, that passion really can do. Just being passionate about something, no matter what it is, can do amazing things. And anyway, so off I wandered to Ed Sheeran without ever hearing an Ed Sheeran song. And I walked into the biggest single-ticketed concert of all time in Australia, which was 108,000 people or something, 110. And he did it 2 nights in a row, which is crazy. But even though I wasn't there for the music, I was there
for the experience.
And when I was in there and watching it, I'm sitting there going, I can think of a dozen Australian bands that are good enough to do exactly what this guy is doing here. And they're like easily a dozen that could go and play that. Now, the reason why they're not doing that is because there's no one supporting them. There's no one supporting these musicians. But we should, radio, this goes back to radio should support these musicians. The government should support them because if they're exposed to more people are going to come watch them. It's just simple. So of all fucking things, Ed Sheeran was it was literally the day before we announced everything. Especially for me, people are probably listening to this going, Ed fucking Sheeran, what do you want? But yeah.
Hey, inspiration strikes in the most unlikely of places.
Yeah, the weirdest places. And that was the weirdest place. But we've got the talent in this country to make that possible, where an Australian band can go and play the MCG in front of 110,000 people.
Completely agree. So tell me about the pledge drive spectacular that's set to happen this Monday the 3rd and Tuesday the 4th.
Oh, well, okay. So at the moment, we're juggling to get it together because we literally have to put it together we had 6 days to put it together. So we're still putting it together. But basically what it is, we're going to get on YouTube, we're going to have a heap of bands play, and we're going to try and raise as much money as possible. Now, we're not 100% certain on all the bands yet, and I won't give any surprises away. We do have a couple of super special guest musicians coming in that will be hosting it. I can't say who they are, but they're very, very, they're mega stars. Unfortunately, they can't play, but if they had played, it would have went bananas. But yeah, we're going to be doing that Monday and Tuesday. You'll be able to find everything through our Instagram and our Facebook.
I love that you're doing the YouTube thing and putting the whole day online. It means people can still get involved and not have to take like a day off work or travel. I mean, I'm from central Victoria, so getting to the city is around a 2 hour hike for me. But, people like me can check in on what's happening online and support from afar. It's a great way of doing things.
It is. It was easier than because we had such a limited amount of time. We couldn't put on a proper concert, but at least this way, anyone can watch it. And if you can give, you can give what you give. If you can't afford to give, which a lot of people can't, at least you can still watch it.
But, every little bit counts as well. That's what I've been sort of saying to people.
It really does.
And I think there's a little bit of a misconception that if you can't donate big, then it's pointless, but it's absolutely not. So
Yeah, that's right. And the other part of it is none of the money will be taken from your account until May 1st or May 2nd, and only then if we're successful. So if you can afford to pledge in 3 weeks' time, then you can actually pledge now.
So you're not throwing your money away for nothing if it's not successful, which I think is another really amazing aspect of the campaign. If you're willing to give away this information, what plans do you have for the tote should you obtain it?
Okay, you know what? Here's the amazing thing. We are just going to run the tote properly. But we do have some good things. We've got an excellent band booker. He's going to go in there and reinvigorate it. We're big on having lots of different genres, like we are at Last Chance. We love everything. I listen to everything, so we want everything. We definitely put a kitchen back in. Believe it or not, I know most people are going to say this is insane, but we would lower beer prices. So we're a big believer in everyone should be able to come to the pub to watch live music, and we're not greedy people, so that would be the biggest one, the lower beer prices. But yeah, in effect, we just run it very similar to what we do at Last Chance. We're big on community. We're big on making sure that we feed people properly and at a right price, and we would essentially just bring the tote back to what it should be.
One big happy family drinking cheap beers.
Yeah, exactly. And that's essentially what it is. It's a family and a community, and we should all support one another. And that's what we want to do.
Amazing. Like you said, like at the time of recording this, you've got 6 days until you have to make an offer. And I imagine the tensions are about as high as it gets for you right now.
They're very, very high.
Yeah, and I can attest to the fact that you've like put every last ounce of energy into this shit. I've been watching on social media for the last little while. So I need to ask, should the outcome not be favorable, have you got a mental health first aid plan at the ready to help you process it?
You know what? I'm actually kind of do. I work a lot. I probably work like 16, 17 hours a day at a minimum. So I'll probably just go back to work, but that'll be my mental health plan. I won't have time to think about it. But look,
well, I just pour all of that passion into Last Chance like you're already doing.
That's right. But, like in a sense, we know that this could fail, but in the long term, I think that the conversations that we've started and the framework we've put out there is good because people can run with that. So no matter what, there's going to be some level of success to this, whether the tote is saved or not, which hopefully the community gets together and it is saved, because it is a bit of a David versus Goliath thing.
Yeah, 100%. Well, look, Shane, I'm absolutely gunning for you and Leanne, and I want nothing more than to see you succeed with this. So, listeners, hit up thelastchance.com.au to donate or follow The Last Chance Rock and Roll Bar on social media for links and to keep up to date with how it all unfolds.
Yeah. So if you jump on The Last Chance Rock and Roll Bar, social media is probably the best way. Our website is dodgy at the moment.
Okay.
Follow us on the socials because we are very entertaining.
I was going to say there's lots and lots of updates happening and they're all very entertaining ones too. So yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for spending time talking to me today. And I truly, truly want to see you achieve this.
No, thank you. And I'm sorry if I'm a bit down. I haven't slept much and I've just come from a heap of meetings. I'm a bit down, a bit tired.
Shane, you've been great and no apologies necessary. You're undertaking something extremely huge and very, very draining. And I imagine you're also suffering a little bit of tattoo fatigue on top of it all. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually due to go back in next Thursday, which is when we have to make an offer to get a few more. So, God help me.
Well, all the best, and yeah, I'll be watching eagerly to see how it all goes.
Thank you so much for this, and thank you to Heavy Mag. Keep doing what you're doing because you're great. And thank you to all the listeners. And if you can support us, please do.